Life Audio.
Welcome to the Crosswalk Devotional. We are so glad to have you listening with us here today. Today's topic is trusting God. We will return after a brief message from our sponsor.
This month on the Salvation Army's weekly podcast, Words of Life, we're wrapping up a series where we've been focused on Christian writers and authors of all kinds. And beginning March 11th, we'll start sharing a testimony where you'll hear from members of a Salvation Army band right after they returned home from a powerful trip and ministry opportunity in South Africa.
One of the lasting effects that I have of the entire trip was hearing the kids sing back to us.
There's a chorus that says, "What shall I render to Jehovah, for he has done so much for me." And to hear kids who have been abandoned sing that with every bit of their spirit back to God, I will never forget that.
Listen to Words of Life wherever you get your podcasts or visit wordsoflifepodcast.org.
Americans have a big healthcare problem. Over 100 million U.S. citizens carry medical debt, but that's not the whole story. With health insurance, your out-of-pocket and monthly costs are way too high. You get surprise bills, denied claims, and poor customer service. That's a serious burden. As Christians, we don't have to pay for a broken system. Christian Healthcare Ministries is an alternative to health insurance at half the cost. You can enroll at any time and join a proven, faith-based solution that's both reliable and affordable. CHM isn't just help, it's financial and spiritual support when you need it most. Families across the country count on CHM to step in during their hardest moments, and it works. Stand up to health insurance with a low-cost, biblical solution. Join CHM today by visiting chministries.org/wellness. That's chministries.org/wellness.
We Can Trust Him. Written by Lauren Fletcher. Read by Rochelle Alberti. Bible reading. But as for me, I will sing about your power. Each morning I will sing with joy about your unfailing love. For you have been my refuge, a place of safety when I am in distress. O my strength, to you I sing praises. For you, O God, are my refuge, the God who shows me unfailing love. Psalm 59, 16 and 17. My church recently started a Bible study called Encountering God by Kelly Minter. In it, she talks about God's faithfulness, that we can trust God in our present because of what He has done in the past. She references His faithfulness in the Word, in His relationship with the Israelites. She also mentions that we can trust God because of His personal history with us. Kelly says, well, what I've learned to cherish about remembering God's past faithfulness is how remembrance informs my present and future encountering God. She further encourages the reader to think about how God has been faithful to them. As I pondered this question, I didn't have to wait long for God's answer. As a reminder, last night I was struggling with anxiety and OCD. I had this feeling that things would not get better. And then I heard a familiar song. I heard it in English, but remembered it in Spanish. Tengo futuro, glorioso dia. God was reminding me that I have a future and that things would get better. He recalled a memory from a few years ago. I had been working at a job and dealing with anxiety. It was the worst I had experienced. I had a hard time completing the tasks expected of me and frequently had to take breaks away from my post to regroup. That night, my church was having a practice for our new Spanish service. They sang Goodness of God. During that song, I heard God whisper to me, "You have so much to live for." He reminded me of a dream I have to do mission work, and tears started welling up. Another song my Spanish friends sang back then was Glorious Day. In it, the bridge says, I have a future, which is Tengo futuro in Spanish. I felt this was my personal reminder from God about what He spoke over me. By remembering what God did in this past moment, how He gave me hope in the darkness, I was able to take hold of hope last night. I remembered His faithfulness. I knew that everything was going to be okay. Intersecting faith and life. In Psalms 59, the psalmist recalls God's faithfulness to him. He says, But as for me, I will sing about your power. Each morning I will sing with joy about your unfailing love, for you have been my refuge, a place of safety when I am in distress. He remembers how God has been towards him. The psalmist continues, O my strength, to you I sing praises, for you, O God, are my refuge, the God who shows me unfailing love. His past experience with God encourages him to declare God as his refuge in the present. When we remember God's faithfulness to us in the past, and in the past of his people, we are spurred on with fresh hope for the future. In the Old Testament, God frequently reminds the Israelites of what he has done for them. Is there a passage in the Bible, a story of God's faithfulness that can encourage you? Maybe it's Ruth and Naomi or Hannah, and how personal God was in answering each of their prayers and desires, encountering God. Or perhaps it's how God rescued his people in the book of Esther or in Exodus. People in the Bible also create altars as a reminder. Jacob, for instance. Is there a specific memory that you have of God's personal faithfulness in your life that brings you encouragement whenever you remember it? In Psalms 92, 2-4, the psalmist says, It is good to proclaim your unfailing love in the morning, your faithfulness in the evening, accompanied by a 10-stringed instrument, a harp and the melody of a lyre. You thrill me, Lord, with all you have done for me. I sing for joy because of what you have done. Remembering what God has done also leads us to worship. We can praise God for his faithfulness to us. Kelly Minter says, taking a moment to dwell on who God has always been and what he has done gives us strength in the present and the hope for the future, encountering God. It gives us faith to move forward into what God is calling us to do. Further reading, Psalm 92, 2-4, 1 Chronicles 16, 7-36, Psalm 25, 6, Psalm 34, 19, 2 Samuel 22, 31.
The Crosswalk Devotional is a production of Life Audio and Salem Media. If you liked what you heard today, please take a second to rate and review this podcast in your favorite podcast app so that more listeners like you can find the show. For more faith-filled, inspirational podcasts, visit us at lifeaudio.com.
You know, everybody talks about life after death, but what about life during life? Hey everybody, Greg Laurie here, and on the Greg Laurie Show, we're tackling life's biggest questions like, why am I here? What really matters? And what happens when I die? I'll discuss cultural topics with friends and experts and examine the biblical truth behind everyday issues and even share stories about my own personal spiritual journey. Listen now to The Greg Laurie Show on lifeaudio.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Historical Jesus Podcast is the sweeping saga of the life and times of Galilean Jesus of Nazareth, as well as the faith, religion, and church founded to honor and disseminate his acts and teachings. Join me, Mark Vinette, on this fascinating journey through time, exploring the many great works of Christian theology, literature, architecture, music, and art inspired by the words and deeds of Jesus Christ.